It gives me a great deal of pleasure to perform this ceremony. I have been present at a great many of these ceremonies. This one, I think, is the most important one that I've had the privilege, at which I've had the privilege to officiate. Citation for Distinguished Service Medal. In a war unparalleled in magnitude and horror, millions of Americans gave their country outstanding service. General of the Army George C. Marshall gave it victory. By the favor of Providence, General Marshall became Chief of Staff of the United States Army on the day that Germany attacked Poland. His was the vision that brought into being the greatest military force in history, because he was able to make the Allies understand the true potentiality of American greatness in personnel and materiel. He was able to exercise greater influence than any other man on the strategy of victory. It was he who first recognized that victory in a global war would depend on this nation's capacity to ring the earth with far-flung supply lines, to arm every willing ally, and to overcome the aggressor nations with the superior firepower. He was the first to see the technological cunning and consequent greater danger of the Nazi enemy. He was the master proponent of a ground assault across the English Channel into the plains of Western Europe, directed by a single supreme Allied commander. He insisted on maintaining unremitting pressure against the Japanese, thereby preventing them from becoming entrenched in their stolen empire and enabling our timely advances across the Pacific. He obtained from Congress the stupendous sums that made possible the atomic bomb, well knowing that failure would be his full responsibility. Statesman and soldier, he had courage, fortitude, and vision, and best of all, a rare self-effacement. He has been a tower of strength as commander of under two commanders-in-chief. His standards of character, conduct, and efficiency inspired the entire Army, the nation, and the world. To him, as much as to any individual, the United States owes its future. He takes his place at the head of the great commanders of history.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the President is shaking hands with General Marshall. He is now pinning the Distinguished Service Medal on General Marshall's uniform. And in just a moment, General Marshall will give you his last public address, his last official speech to the War Department and the troops of the United States. The President is again shaking hands with General Marshall. The audience is applauding, as you can hear in the background. The President and General Marshall walk out to the front of the platform for the newsreel photographers and the newspaper photographers to get their snapshots. And now the President sits down, and here is General Marshall.
Mr. President, I am profoundly grateful for your citation for the Distinguished Service Medal. I accept it as the agent of those who made it possible for us to stand here today in peace and thanksgiving, the soldiers of the great American Army of this war. I know, Mr. President, that there's nothing I can say to increase your appreciation and affection for these men. From the moment you became our Commander-in-Chief, we had the utmost support and understanding from you. Your leadership in the final stages of the war made certain that both in Europe and in the Pacific, not a moment was lost to bring a swift end to the tragic calamity of this generation. To you, the men and women of the War Department who served with me during the hard years of this war, who labored month after month without regard to hours and without the stimulus of excitement or danger or the opportunity for personal recognition. I need say that you did a tremendous job magnificently. Your work translated the power of America into a great army and deployed and supplied it around the world. I thank you from the heart for your fine partnership and for all that you have done for me to make the task lighter. To the soldiers of the Army, you still in uniform and who have already returned to your homes, I, as one citizen and one comrade, express my deepest gratitude. You are the greatest protective force this nation has ever known. In its direst hours, you carried the might of America into action. You gave to the United States its rightful prestige among nations. And no one knows better than you that you did not do it alone. You know how tremendous was the contribution of the nation as a whole, of the millions of laboring men and women whose productive efforts supplied your munitions, of the factories of this great nation and the science and management that guided their operation, of the farmers and of the plain citizen who put your needs above his own. But of all these efforts, yours was by far the greatest. You faced death and swallowed fear, endured the agonies of battle, and of hearts torn by loneliness and homesickness and starvation for the normal life you loved. Yet you took it, all there was to take, anywhere on the battlefronts of the world. And you had the strength and will to give it back, to give back much more than your enemies could take. You know that those who stayed behind were no different than you. Had they been out front and you behind, all would have served just as you did. That is the genius of America. That is the strength of a free people. Most of you know how different, how fortunate is America compared with the rest of the world. That is something those at home cannot fully appreciate. Today, this nation, with good faith and sincerity, I am certain, desires to take the lead in the measures necessary to avoid another world catastrophe such as you have just ended. And the world of suffering people looks to us for such leadership. Their thoughts, however, are not concentrated alone on this problem. They have the more immediate and terribly pressing concerns, where their next mouthful of food will come from, where they will find shelter tonight, and where they will find warmth from the cold of winter. Along with the great problem of maintaining the peace, we must solve the problem of the pittance of food, of clothing and coal and homes. Neither of these problems can be solved alone. They are directly related, one to the other. It is to you men and women of this great citizen army who carried this nation to victory that we must look for leadership in the critical years ahead. You are young and vigorous, and your services as informed citizens will be necessary to the peace and prosperity of the world. Thank you.